Originally, I was like 210 pounds, I think, after the first year of med school. I wouldn't really say I focused on dieting or anything. Here's where I would say the major weight loss came into effect. What I tried to change my mindset to wasn't to focus on, oh, I need to gain this much muscle or I need to lose this much weight. I need to incorporate these as a daily practice. I said, you know what? I'm gonna lift weights and I'm gonna just do maybe 10, 15 minutes. For me, an hour was a little daunting, but getting started, no, it was all upper body. I didn't hit legs. I know, it's not at all recommended.
You just need motivation at the beginning. Get started with
you do, right? You need to be excited to kind of go in. Hi, Kartik, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me about the weight loss. How many pounds have you lost?
So, I've lost about more than 30 pounds. I've lost maybe 33, 34, right?
Almost 40?
No, it would probably be low 30s. It would probably be low to max mid 30s.
Okay.
The reason I can't give like a definitive answer is kind of like, at least right now, I have a little bit of fluctuation day to day. But I think it was, and originally I was like 210 pounds, I think, after the first year of med school, right? And the second year of med school, I feel like I wouldn't really say I focused on dieting or anything too much in the second year in particular, but I think overall I probably ended up eating a little bit less, and I think my weight probably slightly dropped because of that. But here's where I would say the major weight loss came into effect. So back in around May, right, May, June time, what I ended up doing
this year, like the 2020.
Yes, 2020. Oh, sorry, 2023. Good point. Yeah, 2023. What ended up happening was I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to incorporate exercising and dieting into my routine. Right? So it was, yes, the long-term goal was to lose weight as well as to gain muscle. But what I tried to change my mindset to wasn't to focus on, oh, I need to gain this much muscle or I need to lose this much weight, right? It was more so, I need to incorporate these as a daily practice.
Okay.
So instead of having the mindset of, right, or I changed my mindset to, rather, I'm a person who exercises, right? I'm a person who lifts weights, right? I'm a person who ends up, trying to have a high fiber diet. I'm a person who tries to end up getting about 100 grams of protein in per day.
Okay. So
go ahead.
Mindset shift.
Yes, it was definitely a mindset shift. And there was also a point of acceptance where this will take a while. However, I'm not focused on the end result. I'm focused on just kind of checking those boxes, right? Of, oh, I tried to get around 100 grams of protein. I tried to, have high fiber, and you know what? I exercised, right? I lifted weights, right? Originally, what ended up happening was it started off actually with just a few changes. So at least from an exercise standpoint, I said, you know what? I'm gonna lift weights and I'm gonna just do maybe 10, 15 minutes, right? I don't know. For me, an hour was a little daunting, right? Where it was like, oh my gosh, so much can be done in an hour. Am I gonna, I'm behind in so many other things, how can I waste an hour, right? Started off with like 10, 15 minutes, right? And I just jumped in and got started, which I would say was fantastic. Instead of, thinking and being like, oh, what's the perfect form? What's the, proper set of exercises that I need to do and what sequence, right? What's most optimal? No. And that got the ball rolling, right? Where I told myself that improvement can always come later. I can always end up modifying things slightly or improving things over time. And I had to kind of accept at that time that change will be slow, right? And I can improve over time. Then what happened was I ended up, in terms of my diet, actually, interestingly enough, two things helped quite a bit. Um, in terms of trying to reach that 100 gram of protein, right? Because I had tried protein shakes here and there. They were somewhat beneficial, but a lot of the protein shakes, I don't know, they tasted pretty bad. They didn't taste the best, and that was a little bit of
You
a
ever
problem
tried
for
the
me.
Terra's Way?
What?
You ever tried the Terra's Way protein powder? The one that
Uh,
Bailey's one?
yes, yeah, the one that you recommended.
Did you like
It
it?
did. I think it was fine, but I didn't use a lot of these substances that you used. So I'd mix it in with like there are like the smoothie packs that you get from Costco. Yeah, so I mixed it in with some of those, and I think it turned out all right, especially because it was a little bit on the plain side, which was nice instead of all
Yeah.
the other protein powders. You get a little flavored, and it's like it's really really strange combinations. Uh,
So what were the two things?
the two things, at least in terms of diet, that really ended up helping
Mm.
was Faye, so meaning the Greek yogurt from Costco.
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you, like, it's got, I think, not, I think maybe
18 grams per
80,
cup. For
like
three,
90 calories or something. What?
I think 3/4 cup, 90 calories, 18 grams protein.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 3/4 of a quart. Yep. Yeah. So, or 3/4 of I think 3/4 of a cup. I think you're right. As for, yeah, so I used to have that, right? And like, because at home itself, right, we have a lot of Indian yogurt, right? So I enjoy that in general, right? And so I tried to, just get plain Greek yogurt as kind of a substitute for that. Tasted amazing. I was able to add, some Indian spices to it, and I was easily able to have a bowl of it, right? And I know for me, sometimes I get a little bored where I'm like, if I'm, having a lot of thick yogurt, so I added a little bit water to it, right? Mixed it up, tasted amazing. I was able to, hear like a bowl of it in, maybe 5 minutes or so.
How big of
Not
a
long at
bowl?
all. Oh, they were like, you've come to my house and you've seen those kind of the deep bowls that I have, right?
You're
So
like,
kind of one of those.
like three
What?
cups.
Sorry?
You're talking like 3 cups of yogurt.
No, I wasn't able to do that in 5 minutes, right? The small, like I would say the medium bowls, I was able to do in like 5 minutes. The large bowls that you've seen at my house in particular, that took me a little bit longer, right? Yeah, but I wouldn't say it was like a chore at all to eat. That was one. The second one that really ended up helping was the Kodiak waffles and like the pancakes and stuff, right? Where they've got a lot of the whole grains and they've got the fiber in it, right? And even though it's not a lot of protein, right? I feel like it kind of killed two birds with one stone. It gave me a little bit of protein in the morning, right? And it also ended up adding that little bit of fiber boost. And in addition with that, having the Oikos yogurts, the 15-gram protein, 20-gram protein, coupling that with like, the Kodiak pancakes or waffles, that was fantastic. I'd easily end up getting almost 30 grams,
Yeah.
right, of protein in one meal, right? And that's kind of how I tried to maintain it. I tried to be like, oh, I'm gonna get like 30 grams, for morning, 30 grams for lunch, 30 grams for dinner, right? And so sometimes, yes, I did fall short of 100 grams, but I didn't worry too much about that,
Mhm.
right? And even if sometimes I felt bad that I didn't get to 100, I'd just probably, grab a little bit more Faye, right? A little bit more of that yogurt. Yeah, so that's kind of what got me started. And then I started gradually increasing the amount of time that I'd exercise, right? So from about, 10, 15 minutes to maybe 20, right? And I think once I got to around 20 minutes, that's when I started like changing my routine where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to work out this body part on this day and kind of doing it by, changing the various different body parts that I'd be working on in the week.
What did you do before that? The
So
15.
I was just about to get into that. So what I originally started off with, I was like, you know what? Whatever exercises I want to do, I'm just going to jump into it and do it. right? If that means I want to do arms every day, so be it. If that means I want to do chest every day, so be it. And I know that's generally not recommended, right? But that's what got me into the door, right? That's what got me started. And I would say that decreased the level of friction that I had when I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to block out time. I'm gonna have to figure out what the routines are. I'm gonna have to figure out, what I'm gonna do each day, right? And I'm gonna have to figure out what, subsections of those exercises I'm gonna be doing, how many sets, how many reps, what's most optimal, what's least, right? I feel like I bypassed all that and I started forming consistency with those 10, 15 minutes. And that's what kind of overcame this hurdle of, oh, it's gonna take so much time, right? I was, you know what, I'm just gonna get started. And I think that consistency of just getting started was so crucial. And then from there, then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to move to like 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then after that, I looked forward to it. Where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm enjoying this, right? I like working out. I saw a little bit of increase in my strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I started doing 20 to 25 minutes, I ended up seeing certain changes. I ended up seeing some changes in, my body, and I was like, this is, mind-boggling. Where I was like, in my life, one, I've never been consistent in anything, but two, I also haven't seen progress like this, right? Especially because I was always under the impression, I was like, oh, I'm doing a lot of things inefficiently or wrong, this or that. But that kind of confirmed at least, the notion that initially, right, would probably get it started with potentially any skill or, any new habit that you want to form. Building consistency is very crucial, and it probably gives you a huge kind of bump in skill early on, right? And then it's kind of like what I was talking to you about regarding diminishing returns, right? So it's kind of like a, not to get too scientific, but it's similar to kind of the shape of like a Michaelis-Menten kinetic graph, right? Yeah, so originally you'll get like a lot of gain from just being consistent, right? Your form doesn't have to be the most perfect, right? Don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing crazy, heavy weights or anything like that, right? But I was pushing myself. Sorry?
Dumbbells or like bar weights, or what'd you use?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's a good question. I used free weights. Yeah, but I was able to. Those weights where you have kind of those plates at the end, and you have like kind of a docking station where you can end up kind of rotating the handle of the dumbbells, and it'll like switch. That's what I use. So it's exactly the same machine that you kind of had.
Yeah. Okay. So did you use like heavy weights because you started out, or like what weight did you use?
So I started out actually with things that were probably high reps, low weights.
Okay.
And that was just to kind of get into the flow of things, right? And just kind of get myself used to things, right? Where I didn't want to like jump in and, jump to heavy weights or jump to my max or anything like that. So that's what I did originally when I was doing, roughly 10, 15 minutes, right? Then when I jumped to 20, 25, I integrated, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make things simple, right? Instead of doing, multiple different, like quite a few different sets and compiling multiple different exercises, I tried to do roughly about 3 sets. And then I added, anywhere from like about 8 to 12 reps, right? Per set. And I would attempt for the exercises that I choose, for those to cover most of whatever body part I was working on, right? So like, for example, for arms, right? At least for the biceps, I try to hit the long head and the short head, right? I would try to end up doing the regular dumbbell curls, and I'd also try to do hammer curls, right? Originally, when I was starting off, when I had a lot lower weights, I would end up also adding preacher curls into that. Yeah. So, but I ended up. Sorry?
You ever hit legs?
I know it sounds like I never hit legs. Getting so I told you, but getting started, no, it was all upper body.
It's all.
I didn't hit legs.
I
I
mean,
know it's not at all recommended.
you just
Uh,
need motivation at the beginning. Get started with
you
something.
do, right? And you need kind of that. You need to be excited to kind of go in, right? And once you build that consistency and you like decrease the level of friction to get started with an activity, that's essentially what procrastination is, right? So once you decrease that friction, you can go in and you know that you're going to be spending time there. You know you're going to have a good time. Then you're like, you know what? I can start incorporating legs, right? Um, and that's kind of, and then I, started increasing the time from 20, 25 minutes to like 45, then like an hour, right? And I was enjoying things. I really was. I even tacked on multiple different sets, right? More sets than just three sometimes. Sometimes I'd even do, more reps than just 8 to 12 per set. Yeah. And then I kind of, broke things down in terms of body part. I didn't research too much about, I think the optimal, or at least what's described on the internet is, you should do like an upper body and like lower body split, right? Or like a push pull split. But what I did was I just did it based off body part. I was like, arms one day, chest one day, legs one day, back one day, right? That's kind of how I did it. Yeah, that's pretty much how I got started. And just based off that, even if I wasn't perfect, there were definitely days where I'd go in and I'd be like, oh man, this is a little bit of a chore to do. I'd go through the motions. I'd just go through the motions. And this is kind of where I like extrapolate that idea of consistency being king, at least in the beginning, right? Where instead of going from not working out too much to working out, right, you gain this kind of increase, right? You gain this kind of bump in level, right, in your capability to do things. You gain a different appearance, right? You gain all that just based off consistency, at least initially, right? Obviously, I would imagine at the higher end of things, it's you'd have to take into account a lot more of the minutia, right? A lot more of the finer things.
I'm getting up there.
But yeah.
You didn't even count like calories or anything. You basically just hit your protein goals and you started working out a bit.
So for calories, I tried to maintain around 2,000 or less based off what I calculated my BMI to be at that time. I wasn't too worried if I went like 100 over, or maybe max 200 over, because what I wanted was kind of long-term growth, right? So meaning that I knew that if I end up building muscle, I knew that I'll already be burning more calories, right? Maybe not so much in the short term, but definitely in the long term, right? So I was like, as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, gonna be building muscle, right? Taking roughly around 2,000. So whatever my BMR was when I calculated it. And then as you tack on just building muscle to that, even if my BMR that I'd calculated wasn't proper, right, or wasn't exact, if everything else stays the same and I just end up building muscle, I'll already end up burning more calories, right? You put that over the course of, couple months, you're probably going to see progress, right? And it wasn't like I was, I definitely wasn't too strict on anything, which was also good, right? Meaning I wasn't too strict on, I've got to eat everything perfectly, right? I wasn't, right? And I think that's okay.
Especially at the beginning.
Yes, especially at the beginning.
And you didn't do any cardio at all? Like you just did weights for most of it?
So for the 3-month period that I'm talking about, where I would say I saw the most amount of progress, I lost, what did I lose? I think I lost about majority of my weight during that time. I didn't do much cardio during that time. I did tell myself, and I kind of lied during that point. I did tell myself that I was, you know what? I'm just getting my foot in the door of, getting into the habit of like weightlifting every single day. And you know what? Then after that, I'm gonna do cardio. I'm gonna do cardio at some point. I definitely am, right? That didn't it didn't work out that way. Um, but I remember back in high school, uh, when I was in weight training, we always used to keep Wednesdays. We'd reserve Wednesdays for cardio. And eventually I kind of wanted to incorporate that into the mix, where it was like, oh, Wednesday's cardio day, go run like a mile or go to one of actually, interestingly enough, around that time, that's when you started coming out with some of your videos regarding, this is how you can do like your super high intensity hit training exercises for like 20 minutes, right? Yeah. But so I had done, I think maybe the summer before, so not 2023, but like the summer of 2022, I did experiment with like, I think a couple weeks of just cardio. I didn't actually even touch weights during that time. I'm a little bit of an oddball where.
Did you
Go
lose
ahead.
weight back then with just cardio?
Weirdly enough, no, but I was also living at home and with the Indian culture and yeah, my parents. I would say, if anything, it's a miracle that my weight was maintained, if not gained, at that time.
No,
Yeah.
I think from what you're saying kind of proves that like building muscle is maybe a superior way to losing weight than cardio because it's like a double whammy. Not only are you like burning while you're doing the exercise, but the bigger your muscles are, you're also, you're gonna be consuming more calories just sitting down later on, and your muscles are bigger, you're gonna be more insulin sensitive. So like, you're gonna be absorbing all that blood sugar and all that. So I think you're like a living example. Like weight seem to cause more weight loss than actual cardio.
So when I was researching all this stuff, and I hadn't gone, too in depth into the literature, but that's exactly what my idea was, right? Where I was like, I want to build things long term, and like for cardio, while hit is very good for the heart, right? Um, I knew that with building muscle, right, you're essentially, as you said, once you build that muscle, it's going to be increasing your BMR. It's increasing your baseline metabolic rate, right? Where your muscles at rest are going to be burning more,
Yeah.
right, in terms of calories. So I knew that that would end up sustaining me for a long term, for essentially long term, as opposed to trying to go very heavy on cardio and really being very restrictive with my diet, right? That's not something I was exactly looking for. So I knew going in that I was going to jump first into weight training, and then later I would tack on cardio, especially for like the cardiovascular health, right? Yeah, but I wanted to start off with weight training exactly for the reason that you're describing.
Okay. Okay. And then you said you did 3 months mostly weights, then you started doing cardio. When did you like reach your plateau weight, or are you still losing weight currently?
So surgery kind of compounded things, or not, I wouldn't say compounded things. It kind of confounded things where I had unintentional weight loss. Yeah, because I wasn't eating much during surgery, so I lost the extra 3-4 pounds there. Yeah, so that's why I say like 30 and low 30s, right? 30 I would say was probably from um, the different diet changes as well as the working out, and the 3-4 pounds after that was definitely probably surgery.
Okay. Okay. And then going forward, like all these habits that you did build recently, are you going to continue doing them during your busy time? How have you like dealt with all the busy rotation time and working out and stuff?
So I would say back in pediatrics, because I was also enjoying pediatrics, whenever I used to come home, I used to kind of jump into working out. It took me roughly, I think, a week or two in the beginning of pediatrics to kind of get used to things so I could do that, right? Um, but yeah, after a week or two, I was like, you know what? All right, go to pediatrics, go to the clinic in the day, come back and work out. And I told myself, I was like, you know what? Even if I work out for 15, 30 minutes, it's fine.
Mhm.
It's all right. What was most important was keeping up with things as opposed to always trying to maintain a single value of like an hour, right? Where it was kind of like, I'll be adjustable,
Yeah,
which was, I think that was key, especially in pediatrics. Um,
I think that's key
kept
for
that,
like in a busy lifestyle, just being adjustable with what you need to do.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It is, and it's weird because my mindset before wasn't like that at all. It was like, man, you got to hit that 1 hour target. You got to hit that 1 hour target. And then I wouldn't even start, right?
It's true.
That's
Better
kind of
to
how it
go five
was.
minutes than like not do anything.
Yes. I would say so in pediatrics, I was building momentum towards the middle and the end of, oh, I can keep this consistency up. I can keep up the diet. Surgery, I wasn't able to keep that up
Yeah.
almost at all, right? Where yeah, a lot of things did end up kind of falling off. Where because I used to wake up at 4, go to the hospital at 5, right? Be at the hospital at 5, and then some days, for a lot of days, I'd probably come back around 5 or after, right? I try to sleep by 8, and I also didn't want to work out too close to like sleeping because I was like, I don't want to activate my brain,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to activate my body brain. Don't want to do it. It's going to interfere with my sleep. And I didn't. I would say I didn't do that, and that's definitely on me. I didn't do that. I don't think I was eating much either during that time, and it was a real chore to try to push myself and organize, and upkeep whatever diet I had previously. So I wasn't able to maintain. I was. That was definitely the practical. Those were the practical problems that I was faced.
So with the diet stuff, tell me a little bit more deeper. Like, what are you avoiding? What are you eating? I know you told me the protein stuff, but like, what exactly are you changing that also led to less calories?
So I was eating meals which were generally smaller, right? However, they were packed with protein and fiber, right? And fiber is extremely essential and important in maintaining proper body and gut health. But in particular for the protein, I'd have the major source of protein, I would say maybe 40 to about 60 grams might have actually come from Baye.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a good amount that was coming from there. The other was probably coming a lot from the oikos. And then once in a while I would supplement with maybe a protein shake or something like that. Or even especially in the fiber side of things, potentially even one of the protein packs or one of the smoothie packs from Costco. And it's like, roughly, I think either 6 to 8 grams of, fiber in one of those smoothie packs. Easy to make, easy to clean, not that much of a problem. But because I was having I was trying to maintain high protein intake for each meal, right? I ended up feeling hungry a lot less. And then whenever I would feel hungry, I'd probably get, one of those snacks which are like low calories, but like you can munch on a lot. Like, I think there's certain popcorn. I think it's one
Oh,
of those, it's one of those organic popcorns that you can have like a bunch of, and it's not going to be much at all in terms of calories. Go ahead.
skinny pop,
Sorry.
skinny pop, something like
Uh,
that.
Not skin. It's like got like a Buddha on the front. I don't remember the exact name.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But, tell me like on average, what was your meals like? Like, give me an example of your. I know you told me the waffles for breakfast and stuff with your yogurt, but what was your lunch and dinner like? What did you have?
So for lunch, I would I would potentially have like a chicken sandwich, and then one of those like Costco chicken sandwiches. I'd like either warm that up, and then I might even grab some. The can't I can't believe it's not butter. I'd like lace that on top of the buns, have that, right? Maybe, add some uh, black beans into the mix, right? Or so that's definitely one of the things that I used to have for lunch. The other stuff was, the frozen aisle section for Costco or like Walmart or, one of the grocery stores. used to grab a lot of I think the healthy choice meals or some of those
Oh,
where it was, yeah, so it was very high in protein, it was low in calories, tasted good, right? I enjoyed
oh,
those.
oh,
And even if, yeah, and but besides that, I would say, a lot of the times I would also like kind of eat out, right? But in terms of eating out, I would try to kind of maintain kind of macros, pretty
okay.
much, right? I try to get, high protein meals, which had a lot of fiber, right? I didn't worry about all the other, stuff. I didn't worry too much about sodium or other constituents of the nutritional information on those things. So I remember a lot of the times, especially when I was in pediatrics, and I'm not telling anybody to follow this, but this is at least what I did. Even when I used to go to, like, say for example, like Taco Bell, right? Would get like one of those Cantina Bowls,
Okay.
right? Where you would have a lot of black beans,
Uh,
right? Then you'd have, some of the rice, you'd have a lot of chicken in there as well. I'd actually ask for extra black beans and extra chicken.
more protein. Okay.
Yes, more protein. And I think all in all, it came to, if you did it right, maybe took off the guacamole. I didn't have the guac over there, and yeah, if you took off the guac, I think, and you added even those extras, you'd get to around maybe 500, 600 calories, and you'd hit at the very minimum. I can easily tell you, you definitely hit 30 grams of protein.
Okay.
Fiber, I think the bowls are maybe 7, 8 grams of fiber, something like that. Yeah, so I'd try to achieve that. And
So,
even if one meal got like messed up, I try to compensate with the others. But go on. But
what I'm hearing from you is like you didn't do particular like eating a bunch of salads, some keto, some vegan, some random diet like that. You kind of just lowered your portions and stuff, and kind of ate less, focused on getting your protein and fiber, stay full, and exercise a little bit. Like not even like
yeah,
like an hour or something, like just enough, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
that's at least, I would say that's definitely how I started. And for the most part, yeah, like I would say that, especially in like during clerkships and stuff, maybe even 30 minutes, I thought that was more or less fine. And yeah, I would definitely say that summarizes most of the things. I wasn't too concerned about eating, pitch perfect or anything like that, right? It was essentially, yeah, if you eat, 3 meals, right? Make sure they're high in protein, fiber, right? You're gonna feel full. I was full most of the time, right? Once in a while, sure, I'd have a snack or something. But yeah, I was definitely full. I wasn't eating salads. I wasn't eating a bunch of salads or anything, right? Didn't go with keto. I a lot of the keto stuff in the store, I can't stand how it tastes.
So tell me this, how much junk food did you have in that much time? Like a fast food type, like really bad, like ice cream, straight sugar, soda, any of that kind of stuff? How much did you have? Or if any of that?
No, no, I definitely did have some, but it definitely wasn't excessive, right? So like maybe once in a week or so,
Okay.
right? I'd have maybe I mean, you could kind of call it a cheat meal or something like that. And in terms of like, at least in terms of food, right? Like, yeah, I think I remember I think it was after I finished, pediatrics or something. I went and got like Cold Stone, right? Yeah,
Uh,
so I got one of those, but I definitely didn't make it a habit or like a meal to do that. But I would be understanding and kind of flexible, where I was like, okay, you know what? Even if I have this, it's not the end of the world, right? And I told myself, you know what? Instead of feeling guilty about it, because I'm focused on the long term, right? I was like, one day is not going to make a difference. I just can't make it, an everyday type thing.
yeah.
That's at least how it was for foods, because I know when my folks came over, I wasn't able to adhere too much to my diet. Yeah. In terms of the drinks, right? Even if I would have a little bit of, I don't know, either flavored water or, sodas once in a while, they would all essentially be diet, right? They'd be diet or they'd be 0 calorie or, something like that, right? Um, Yeah, or even there's the brand BAI at I think yeah at your local grocery market.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have.
they've got essentially a little bit of erythritol, and that's more or less it, right? Yeah, so I wouldn't say, or at least my knowledge is that that's not necessarily too bad. It's a sugar alcohol, so it's not even necessarily absorbed. Um, and yeah, so that tasted fine, right? I'd have that once in a while. I'd also have the sparkling ice stuff from like your local grocery market, is the bottles, the like long like tubular bottles, the sparkling ice stuff. Yeah, that tasted fine. And it's not like I would have that too often or anything, right? I mainly focused on just having just filling up my water bottle all the time, and just taking that and drinking that. But yeah, if I ever felt like I needed to sip on something, yeah, once in a while I would definitely indulge.
Okay. So basically, you solved weight loss by doing nothing extreme and just living your life and just lowered everything you do, more activity.
Yeah, because when I was starting all this, I came to the conclusion where habits essentially kind of dictate your life. You are what you essentially do,
Mhm.
right? And things that are built to last, you can't you can't make drastic changes which will automatically get you that, right? Anything that's, I would say, really worthwhile and must be built will take time, especially if you want it to be of high quality, right? And I knew that, actually, this is what I told myself. Time will always just keep going,
Mhm.
right? Calendars will keep, the pages of the calendar will keep flipping, right? Days will keep going by, weeks will keep going by, years will keep going by. And I said, you know what? If at least I build even a simple habit over the course of time, I will essentially befriend time. Time will be my friend, where as time goes on, more and more progress will be seen, right? But don't get me wrong. I knew that was especially just going to be true in the short term, or in the
Like
short term, in terms of,
seeing results, changes, and stuff.
yes, especially early on, right? Like as I told you, that diminishing curve thing, right? Yeah. So, and I knew it's not like I wasn't trying to become like a bodybuilder or anything, right? No, right? I was just trying to get in a little bit of a better shape. But yeah, that's essentially what it boiled down to.
Wow. That's a pretty impressive story for I think a lot of average people to just look at because it's not like, oh, you're doing something insane. You're literally just improve your life a little bit at a time, little increments, and
And I'm telling you, I was bewildered. I was like a little, it was definitely mind-boggling to see some results, right? Where I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this actually works. Like it worked in my head, but to see it in practice, that that was fantastic. I remember it was definitely like kind of like a euphoric moment where I was like, I'm seeing progress, right? I'm not doing much. It definitely didn't take much. And I would say that the most important thing was changing my mindset and getting started.
and what are your goals for going forward with this? Are you trying to lose more weight? Are you trying to gain more muscle? What's the plan?
Going forward, it would probably be gaining more muscle, and actually, since I've lost some unintended weight in surgery, yeah, no, I'd probably want to get a couple of those pounds back.
Uh,
As muscle though. Yeah, so I kind of want to get into things once again. I did end up, kind of, at least for those 8 weeks of surgery, certain routines and habits did fall apart.
you
But yeah,
didn't gain any
getting back
fat.
into this. Sorry.
You didn't gain any fat in those 8 weeks, so that's good.
Yeah, no, I wasn't eating enough. Like fat wouldn't have come from the air. Yeah, yeah. If anything, yeah, no, my body was burning fat because it was like you're not feeding me. Um, but
Oh,
yeah, going forward, I would say that my goal is to gain back a couple of those pounds, get back to 180, 180 pounds, and build muscle. And you know what? More or less, kind of go from there. If I want to, build muscle and surpass even 180, so be it, right? I just essentially want to, be fit and yeah, kind of be healthy. And also, uh, because I'm going to be starting up the journey again, or restarting it, I I do want to get to the point where I'm starting cardio again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the point you're at now, like cardio makes more sense because it's like, you've lost all that weight and you kind of know what the routines are, like how to get in the routine. And now it's just like, okay, I'm going to start doing a little bit of cardio, a little bit of weights, mix it all up, it'll all work out.
Yes, but I would say, one thing I knew it was coming. I knew that if my workload really does increase, it will be very difficult to kind of balance these things out. And I think since I am going to be starting again, I'm going to be starting out slow and probably maybe even slower than before, and probably just making one change at a time. Because I know previously in my life, whenever I've been like, you know what, I'm gonna change like a million things at once, or three, four things at once, I've gotten a little overwhelmed and it hasn't worked out too successfully. So I think if anything, yeah, it's time will go by as is, right? You might want to make the most of it as you can. Even incorporating 10, 15 minutes, think about it, like over the course of what, 4 days, that's about 60, right? And if you do weekends, that's even more. If you pile it up, right? Even if you just work 4 days, right? That's an hour. Then you take it over a month, right? 4-ish hours, right? If not a little bit past that. And then over time it'll essentially just end up compounding, right? And the nice thing is it's not only about the time, right? So it's not like I was in there and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna work out with the same weights, right? I was like, oh yeah, let me like try to increase the weights a little bit, right? So I was doing definitely progressive overload as well. But yeah, that's what I would kind of say is, what's going on from here forth.
Good, good. I think that's a beautiful way to wrap it up for that audience. I think that's a great story you got there. And if I'm gonna bet right now, this will probably be a really, really watched video. And I think after like a year of this being posted, this will do really well because of what your story is like very good for the average folk out there. People struggling, because a lot of people are struggling out there with weight loss. And people are like at obese, really obese levels where they're like, I can't even do anything about this now. They feel like unmotivated. But then hearing your story of just like little minor changes over time, a little bit, but consistent changes. And then they lose massive weight over how many months did you lose it in? Like 5 months total?
Yeah, around 5, 6 months, yeah.
It's insane. Like five
But I
months. Months.
Yeah, but I would say like, the majority of the progress was in those 3 months. That's when I started seeing a lot of the muscle. That's when I saw a lot of the growth. And then after that, yeah, it was essentially just a little bit of maintenance and just do the same thing over and over again, some once in a while up the weight. That's about it. Yeah, and I'm telling you, like I looked at a lot of people, right? Like, you, where I know you're like super disciplined, right? And I would say when I looked at other people who were very, very gung ho and they'd be working out at the gym for like multiple hours, right? Or they would, really push themselves and try to push through with all willpower and motivation. I would say initially just starting and just being consistent will do wonders because you can always change things as
That's
as you progress. Yeah.
All right, then. Beautifully said. And thank you, Upraj, for joining us and inspiring the many people who watch this as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you guys in the next one.